I knew you'd come back for me one day. I just didn't think I was the one for the job. So many other creators have done justice to your legacy way better than I ever could. So why do you choose me? Ooh, it's quite the honor. I promise I won't let you down. Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome back to My Two Cents. This is going to be a very special review, but it's also one that puts me in a very similar spot to my Jaws review. And that's because there's not much else I can say about this movie that hasn't been said for the past 70 years. Gojira and the franchise that it would spawn are some of the most important movies to me. Hell, the Godzilla franchise is in my top 2 favorite franchises of all time. And because I love Godzilla so much, this review is going to be the start of a new review series on the channel that totally has not been done by hundreds of other content creators called Godzillathon. In this series, I'm going to be reviewing every Godzilla movie in order, minus the shows, and I will be giving you facts about each movie from how they were made, to their impact, to anything else I think is a cool fun fact. And by the end of this series, you'll know why I love this giant fire-breathing radioactive dinosaur so much, and why this franchise is so important to me. It's crazy that this whole franchise started here, with a budget ranging from about $900,000 to $150,000 American, a big heavy-ass monster suit, and a lot of hope that this movie would become a success. Thankfully, it was a huge success. Before moving on to the character segment, I just wanted to say that for Godzillathon, I'm more than likely not going to go as in depth on the characters as I am with my other movie reviews. That is unless they are the main character or I feel they're a very standout character and I remember them. To be blunt, this is because for me, not a lot of the human characters in Godzilla are really memorable. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great human characters throughout this franchise, but you're here for the monsters. You're not here for the humans' drama. And it is also because I'm terrible at pronouncing foreign names, and I don't want to get a lot of the actors and the characters' names wrong. With all that out of the way, Akira Takarada plays Hideo Ogata, who is the love interest of a girl, Amiko, in the movie. And besides being the person that helps Dr. Serizawa deliver the oxygen destroyer, I don't remember him doing much else in the film. Akira Takarada would become a very famous actor in the Godzilla franchise. He would play a different character in 6 different Godzilla films, and had a cameo in Godzilla 2014 that was unfortunately cut from the final product. For this being his first film credit, I think he does some phenomenal acting here. This isn't the most memorable character he plays for me, but like every other actor in this movie, you can really see his passion and how he became so famous in this role. Now let's talk about Emiko, who is the daughter of Dr. Yamane and is essentially the main protagonist of this movie. Dr. Yamane, by the way, is the paleontologist that was sent to Odo Island to investigate what happened to the locals and why there's so much radioactivity, and of course, why there's a big ass footprint. She was arranged to get married to the most famous character in this movie, Dr. Serizawa, and her scenes with Dr. Serizawa are some of the best scenes in the movie for me. Yes, like every Japanese movie, the acting is a little over exaggerated, but I'm totally fine with that. If anything, it just brings out more emotion in these scenes. I especially love the scene where Serizawa finally reveals the oxygen destroyer to her, and seeing her reaction to this deadly weapon that her ex has brought into this world. Now I mean this in the most respectful way possible, so please do not take this the wrong way. I love all the characters in this movie, but as someone who has seen every Godzilla movie, I personally don't get a lot out of the female protagonists in the Showa era. This This is because to me, a lot of them seem to be the same character, just with a different application. Honestly, the only female characters that really stand out to me in the Showa era are obviously the Mothra fairies and the girl from Terror of Mechagodzilla who's naked for like half a second. Not just because she was naked, but because I remember her from when I was a kid and I thought she was a cool character. And because she was naked. I could be wrong for thinking this, and I really hope I'm proven wrong as we continue on with Godzillathon. But anyways, enough of that rant. Amiko is great. Now let's talk about the first man to ever kill Godzilla, Dr. Serizawa. After Serizawa creates the oxygen destroyer, he insists on keeping this weapon a secret, fearing what the Japanese government or what the world will do with such a devastating weapon. I mean, a weapon that literally destroys oxygen molecules and disintegrates any life that's in the vicinity of it is insane. After Godzilla attacks Tokyo Bay, Amiko goes to him and begs him to use the weapon. And even in the face of this terrifying monster, he still initially refuses to use the weapon. But after honestly not a lot of convincing and a little tussle between him and Haidito, he eventually agrees to use it, only after he burns all of his notes so nobody can recreate the weapon. Serizawa's name is used a lot in the Godzilla franchise. Because of how many Godzilla films are actually connected to the original Gojira, his noble sacrifice and of course the oxygen destroyer will be brought up a lot. I'm gonna let my favorite actor and character of this movie have his own little segment in this video, but overall these characters are great. All the acting is solid for the time and they all play their part in making this movie the success that it was. Now the story of Gojira goes that in 1954 Japan is still recovering from the bombings of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki when something near Odo Island is destroying a lot of boats and killing everybody on board, with the only survivor of one of the ships only mentioning one name. Scientists over in Tokyo hear about some radioactive activity going on at Odo Island and how a village has been attacked. The locals tell our heroes that go to the island that there is this ancient monster known as Gojira. I forget how often they do this, but they also sacrifice young women to Godzilla so that he doesn't kill all of the fish or kill them. This aspect of Godzilla is never used again for some reason, which I'm okay with because it's kind of a weird thing to add into Godzilla's lore, but it is interesting that this is only brought up in the original film. After Dr. Yamane and his team hear a bunch of noises going on the other side of the island and the locals are saying Gojira, they run over to the other side of the island and over a hill and give us our first look at the king of the monsters. While I'm sure average moviegoers think this design is ugly, I find this design very charming and actually really scary in some shots. Don't worry, we'll talk about the big G later. Dr. Yamane returns to the mainland and reveals his findings to the government. He says it was a radioactive dinosaur that was awakened by the atomic bomb testings over in the ocean. He thinks the monster should be studied, while others think it should just be killed. But he says that he believes the monster is actually unkillable. As Godzilla returns multiple times to destroy Shinagawa and Tokyo, as well as the government trying many tactics to stop Godzilla or kill him, Dr. Serizawa finally reveals his invention to the world, the oxygen destroyer. And they take him to Tokyo Bay where Godzilla is resting so that they can finally put an end to Godzilla. And Dr. Serizawa decides that in order to keep his secret of the oxygen destroyer, he has to sacrifice himself. So he stays down there with the oxygen destroyer and activates it, killing him and Godzilla for good. At least that's what they thought. This story is very depressing, but it's such a masterpiece, made by the late great Ishiro Honda. And obviously beyond this amazing story is this incredible message that just about the entire Godzilla franchise stands for. Nuclear weapons are very dangerous and should not be in the hands of humans, and to never underestimate the power of nature. It's a message that is still prevalent to this day, and is the message of a lot of Godzilla movies going forward. That is why Gojira has stood the test of time. It reminds us of humankind's mistakes and to avoid making history repeat itself. Now let's talk about the king himself. Godzilla, pretty much every incarnation, is a physical embodiment of nuclear energy and nature's fury. He's more of a force of nature than a 160-foot radioactive dinosaur, even though he is that. He's terrifying, he's awesome, and in some moments is actually kind of sympathetic. I feel like everyone that watches Godzilla's death at the end feels something for Godzilla. Yes, you're probably more sad for the fact that Dr. Serizawa is sacrificing himself, but hearing Godzilla's roar in pain at the end always gets me, even though he killed tens of thousands of people. This incarnation of the king is absolutely ruthless. His only purpose is to destroy everything in his path, and honestly doesn't have a lot of personality other than destroy. In later films, they would give him more of a personality, and would even make him the protector of humanity in the same era. But this incarnation, and many others after it, was brought to life by the late great Haruo Nakajima. Haruo was a stuntman who was mostly known for samurai films before he landed the role as the King of the Monsters. And he went all out for this role. He went to a local zoo and studied the movements of bears and elephants to make Godzilla's movements feel more animalistic. Not to mention the suit he wore weighed around 100 kilograms. And because of how hot the suit was, 140 degrees Fahrenheit, he would pass out in the suit often and would need an oxygen tank to breathe. That is some crazy dedication. The suit was made of basically a bunch of cheap material that they could get their hands on because, you know, post-war Japan. It was made of a mixture of rubber, bamboo, wires, and the padding inside was mostly made of cotton padding and latex. In fact, Haruo sweat so much in the suit, the padding of the suit would have to be relined and cleaned before they started filming every morning. And Haruo would even have to be inside the suit when they did the water scenes, so he would have to be underwater in a suit that wasn't really easy to breathe in the first place. And even though this role was incredibly taxing on both his physical and his mental, he loved being Godzilla.
最後まで僕のゴジラってのはフィルムに残ってますからね。記録に残ってるからね、僕らはありがたいと思う。
I mean, he wouldn't wear a rubber suit for about 20 years if he didn't love it, right? He always knew he was irreplaceable as Godzilla, and would say that Godzilla was almost like a second personality to him. We'll talk more about Haruo as we go through the Showa era, but he does an amazing job as Godzilla, and would continue to do amazing as Godzilla as the movies continued. Now, like Jaws, you can't talk about Gojira without talking about its amazing effects. Gojira pioneered a new form of filmmaking called suitmation, which, as the name suggests, is when an actor is put into a full body suit of a monster in order to portray them. Suitmation would be used to portray Godzilla and other kaiju in the franchise all the way up until 2004 with Godzilla Final Wars. And while yes, the film's not fooling anybody, we all know that that's just a guy in a suit, right? But I think this movie still succeeds in making Godzilla actually feel like a threat. In fact, I think a lot of Godzilla fans would agree that this is probably one of the scariest versions of Godzilla in the franchise. I mean, just look at this face. You're telling me that's not terrifying? As Godzillathon goes on, I will be talking about the many instances of suits malfunctioning, actors getting injured or almost dying in the suit, and how the production teams continued to evolve and make the suits better until we get to the legendary and Reiwa era where CGI would take over the franchise. You ever wonder how they actually made the original roar for Godzilla? Well, Akira Ifukube, the composer of the film and would actually be the man that made the famous theme for Godzilla, borrowed a double bass and loosened the strings on it, and then put on a rubber glove and simply rubbed the strings. And this creative yet simple method would be used to create all of Godzilla's roars and many other monsters' roars following the film. Also, every building that you see in this movie that isn't like an establishing shot is handmade and painted. These sets would take days, even weeks, to make, just for Haruo Nakajima to come on set and destroy them. And according to him, they were also pretty hard to destroy. Haruo would mention how he felt terrible for destroying these sets, because the production team put really hard work into making these sets, and he just comes in there and destroys them in the matter of minutes. In fact, that one shot where Godzilla destroys a clock tower had to be redone because Ishiro Honda didn't really like the end result. So they had to redo the scene and remake the clock tower and do it again. I think it goes without saying that the effects on this film are amazing for the time, and I always say I prefer films to be more practical over digital. And Gojira is a great example of how to make a movie look great without the use of digital effects. I mean, it's not like they really had a choice, but still. Now, there are plenty of candidates for the That's Money award, such as Godzilla's attacks on Shinagawa and Tokyo, Serizawa's whole dilemma on whether or not to use the oxygen destroyer, and of course, the death of Godzilla. Honestly, you could ask me tomorrow and I would say that a different scene is my favorite, but I'm gonna have to give the That's Money award to Godzilla's first ever attack on Tokyo. It's literally what Godzilla is known for. Everyone knows Godzilla as the monster that destroyed Tokyo. And of course, my favorite scene had to have Godzilla in it. I mean, overall, guys, what more is there to say? This movie is an absolute masterpiece in my eyes. There was so much love and effort put into this film, and it really shows. From the very real message about the horrors of nuclear weapons, to the amazing cast of characters, and of course, the king of the monsters himself, this movie is absolutely worth paying double for. And if you're one of those people that doesn't really enjoy old films, I encourage you to still watch this because I think even those people could love this movie. And that's my review of Gojira. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really hope I was able to do this movie justice with this review. Also, I hope you guys somehow enjoyed that intro skit. It was pretty cringe, but I tried to make it at least kind of good. I really wanted to hype up this video because, well, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. If you made it this far in the video, I wanted to let you know that I will not be uploading as much as I did this past month. At least not for a while. It is cringe to say, but school does come first. And while I still intend on making these videos the best that I can, I don't want this channel to feel like a job. So I will be slowing down uploads for this next month while I focus more on my classes. And once I get around like Christmas break and summer break, I promise the uploads will go up. Anyways, if you liked the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of Godzillathon and the other reviews I have planned for you. And as always, give me your 2 cents on Gojira in the comments below. And I will see you guys whenever I see you.